My Hebrew brothers and sisters, welcome back. This is your Moreh Yeshua ben Uriah Israel. And we just want to tell you that we appreciate you and we love you. And we thank you so much for your prayers and for your subscriptions. Thank you for liking. Thank you for your comments. We ask that you continue to do so and continue to ask your friends and loved ones to participate in this event, in this ministry, by subscribing to the channel, The Journey Back to YAHUAH. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Now, I promise you that I would do some research and come back with a report about the Pharaoh of Egypt. Now, based on, I went on the internet, I looked in different places, okay? And I could not come up with any solid thing about, like information about where Pharaoh really came from, his background and everything like that. But I was able to see some pictures. I was able to see some pictures of who this Pharaoh was. And one thing we know, there are many different pharaohs. The earliest history of the Hebrew people in Egypt, in those days, they did not name the pharaoh, just a pharaoh. They did not name them. So the time when Joseph was in Egypt, he worked with a pharaoh, but they did not tell what Pharaoh was. But one thing we know, that Pharaoh, based on what Joseph did in helping to save many lives, including his family, is that Pharaoh adored him, that Pharaoh loved him, that Pharaoh honored him, and made him viceroy, or like a prime minister in Egypt. And for many years, the Hebrew people enjoy the benefits of what Joseph did. And if you remember the story, that when Joseph revealed to Pharaoh about his father and his brothers, Pharaoh wanted Jacob, to come to Egypt. He was almost inviting him to come to Egypt. And then you remember when they came, he let them stay in Goshen. And for many years, hundreds of years, the children of Israel, they multiplied. They grew in numbers to the extent that this new Pharaoh that came in did not recognize Joseph. Did not recognize Joseph. If you remember the story with the birth of Moses and how they put him in the little make-believe basket boat and put him down the Nile in the water, to swim, float down there, and one of Pharaoh's daughter, adopted him. And Moses' own mother raised him. until he was of the age where she took him to the palace to turn him over to the lady. But one thing we know here is that this Pharaoh, who was the ruler at the time when Moshe went back to Egypt, because he was gone for 40 years. Remember the story of him slaying the Egyptian taskmaster who was ill-treating the Hebrew people. He said he rather to suffer the affliction, okay, with his people than to enjoy the pleasure of sin for a season. And let me say this, my brothers and my sisters. I have reason to believe that this Pharaoh that Moses went back to asked to let the children of Israel go, the Hebrew Israelite people go. I have reason to believe that he is the Pharaoh as a prince that Moshe grew up with. They were in the same palace, they were in the same place. But this Pharaoh was of a different temperament. He didn't care about the Hebrew people. He wanted to, punish them. They were increasing, and so he wanted to slow down the growth of the people. He was scared that one of them might become leader. This is why he was killing all the babies, the boy babies. Okay? And he believed that by killing the boy babies, he would not have anybody coming up against him to be ruler. Or he would stop the growth, the rate by which they were growing. He would stop that by killing the boys. So there wouldn't be any boys or girls to marry to and so on. And so we know that based on what I gather, and I look all over the internet, okay, and based on what I gathered, is that it would appears, okay, that during the time this Pharaoh was ill-treating the Israelite. It was over many centuries, many years, this new Pharaoh that came in, his family came in because he succeeded his father. And Rameses II, Rameses II, he was selfish, he was ambitious, based on what I learned about him. And, even there was something where he went to make war with the Hittites, okay, in Syria. He wanted to take over. I think his father started to fight with the Hittites. And so he wanted to go over there and he wanted to continue where his father left off. But he was of a temperament of some of these present-day autocrats, where he, even though he lost, he did not win, but yet he went around and he said he won. And you know the story, like, election, one of the former president said he won, and there was no proof to show that he won, but he said he won, and his people say he won. And so this was what's going on there. But based on okay, we will say that the children of Israel, or the Hebrew Israelite people, they came out, it was right around 1275 BC. Okay? Based on, if you look in some of your Bibles, you have different headlines and footnotes and so on. And so they said, like, Israel left Egypt right around 1275 BC. And this king, Rameses, he was born right around, there's probably 1301. I think it's at 1301, right? He was born around that time. And then he died in 1213. Okay, he died in 1213. So he ruled for approximately 67 years. And so let me go back to the pictures. So the pictures that I saw of him, like his mummies, right? And then they show, some pictures to what he would normally look like, okay, without the mummies. And he has Indo-European type features, the facial features and so on. Okay, so I was listening to some news where they had exhibits in Dallas or someplace in Texas, and there's activists, African American activists out there, and they want to find out what happened. Why is it that the Rameses that they were showing was kind of a European look? And the curator, is a man who was traveling and doing the exhibit. He's an Egyptian. He said that Rameses was neither black or white. And that's kind of funny. He was neither black or white. Then what was he then? And they believe that he was a kind of a Mediterranean type look. What a Mediterranean person looks like. Because the Mediterranean people originally were dark-skinned people. Okay, but this man, he could pass for white, based on the mummy and the picture that they put to portray him. He could pass for a white person. And then his bone structure in his face, his head, his neck, his nose, and so on. Even in the mummy, you could see that he was not a Hamitic person. And if he was Hamitic, then he's mixed with some other races of people. So we know then that he, and in the writing, I couldn't find any way to show that. I was talking to this brother and asking, because he loves Egyptology, so on, and asked him questions. And up to this afternoon, I was asking him, why you think? I saw him, and I was talking to him, and he said, it's kind of difficult because the people won't tell exactly who this man was, and he knows a lot about, Egypt and the culture and so on. And so we know that he was of a European descent. That's all I can say. Indo-European type person. He had that background. He could have been that he mixed with Hamitic too, but we know that there were some Japhites in him by just looking and when I was in college I studied anthropology, so that kind of gave me a hint there when I saw him. So we know though that he was a different person, different Pharaoh. He was ambitious, he was greedy, he was proud, arrogant, that kind of person. And to the point where he did not know. You remember when Moses went to him and said, who is God? Who is he? I don't know him. and so on. So I hope this helped a little bit. I hope this helped a little bit. But I will continue to search and look. And if I find something more concrete than what I'm telling you now, I will come back and report it to you. Please be a blessing to someone today. You're YAHUAH ben Uriah Israel. And we ask you to be a blessing and walk with the King. Shalom.